Deep within the unknown, where shadows dance with secrets, lies an ancient terror. A fire that never burns out, forever trapped between realms. They say it whispers to those who dare to listen, tempting them with promises of power and knowledge. But beware, for the fire's embrace is cold and its hunger insatiable. Let me tell you about a time long ago in a forgotten village nestled at the edge of an immense shadowy forest. There was an old legend passed down through generations, a legend of a fire that never goes out. The villagers spoke of a hidden clearing deep within the woods where a bonfire blazed eternally, untouched by rain or wind. One fateful night, a group of daring or perhaps foolish young villagers decided to venture into the forest, determined to uncover the truth behind the legend. There in the distance, a faint orange glow flickered between the trees. They had found it. As they cautiously approached the clearing, the glow intensified, revealing a bonfire blazing merrily in the center. But something wasn't right. The air around the fire was strangely cold, and an unnatural silence hung in the air, broken only by the crackling of the flames. One of the villagers, a young woman named Anya, reached out to touch the flames. But as her fingers drew near, a blood-curdling scream pierced the night. The fire flared, and for a brief moment, Anya could have sworn she saw faces contorted in agony within the flames. She recoiled in horror, her hand instinctively flying to her mouth to stifle a scream. Her companions rushed to her side, their faces etched with concern. They decided to set up camp for the night, hoping to unravel the mysteries of the fire in the morning. Thomas's eyes flew open and he sat bolt upright, gasping for air. He stared wildly around at the concerned faces of his companions, his eyes filled with a primal fear they had never witnessed before. He stammered, his voice trembling. "The fire, it showed me things, terrible things." Anya's heart sank. She knew then that the legends were true. The fire was no ordinary flame, it was something far more ancient and sinister. As the first rays of dawn pierced through the canopy, casting long, eerie shadows across the clearing, the villagers decided to return to their village. They packed up their belongings and made their way back through the dense undergrowth, their minds racing with unanswered questions and a growing sense of dread. Anya couldn't shake the feeling that the fire had a hold on them now, that it wouldn't let them go so easily. In a secluded valley, shrouded in mist and perpetual twilight, there stood a stone circle. The stones themselves were ancient, worn smooth by time and etched with strange, unsettling symbols. At the center of this circle crackled a fire unlike any other. It burned with an unnatural intensity, its flames a swirling vortex of colors that defied description. This fire, the locals whispered, had burned for centuries. It was said to have been kindled by beings not of this world, creatures of shadow and flame who had walked the earth in a time before time itself. The villagers gave the circle a wide berth, their fear a palpable thing. They spoke of rituals conducted under the light of the eternal fire, of sacrifices made to appease whatever ancient evils lurked there. One man, a scholar named Elias, refused to believe these stories. He scoffed at the superstitions of the villagers, dismissing them as the ramblings of frightened minds. Driven by his thirst for knowledge, Elias set out for the stone circle, armed with nothing but his wits and a lantern to pierce the unnatural gloom of the valley. As he approached the circle, a sense of unease settled upon him. He turned his back on the fire, his gaze drawn to the ancient symbols etched into the stones. They seemed to writhe and twist before his eyes, as if alive with some malevolent energy. As he reached out to touch one of the symbols, a voice echoed through the valley. It was not a voice he heard with his ears, but rather a voice that seemed to emanate from the depths of his own mind. The voice spoke of power, of forbidden knowledge, of a pact to be made with entities beyond human comprehension. Elias, his mind reeling, stumbled back from the stone. He realized then the truth of the villagers' whispers. This was no ordinary fire. It was a conduit to something ancient and evil, something that had slumbered for eons, waiting for the unwary to awaken it. Fear, primal and all-consuming, surged through Elias. He turned to flee, but the path behind him was gone. The stones of the circle had shifted, sealing him within its unholy embrace. In a desolate wasteland where the sun beat down mercilessly upon cracked and barren earth, stood a solitary figure. He was cloaked in rags, his face hidden within the depths of a weathered hood. In his hand he clutched a lantern, but the lantern held no candle, no oil to fuel its flame. Instead, it contained a fire that burned without fuel, a fire that never went out. This was Cale, cursed to wander the wasteland for eternity. His crime? He had dared to steal fire from the gods. Legend had it that Cale had once been a powerful sorcerer, a man of ambition who sought to bend the very forces of the universe to his will. In his arrogance, he believed that he could control the power of the gods, that he could harness their fire for his own nefarious purposes. He journeyed to the highest peak of the tallest mountain, a place where the veil between the mortal realm and the realm of the gods was said to be thinnest. There, amidst a raging storm, Cale performed a ritual, a blasphemous act designed to siphon the fire of the gods into his lantern. For a brief moment, he had succeeded. Cale's thirst was unquenchable, his hunger for the power he had lost consuming him from the inside out. He had become a prisoner of his own making, forever bound to the fire that tormented him. And so he walked on, a solitary figure in a desolate landscape, his only companions the whispering flames and the echoes of his past sins. The stories of the fire that never burns out are more than just tales to frighten children. They are warnings passed down through generations to remind us of the dangers of unchecked ambition, of the hubris of man in the face of powers beyond our comprehension. For the fire that never burns out is more than just a physical manifestation. It is a symbol of the darkness that resides within us all, a darkness that whispers promises of power, but demands a terrible price in return. Legends whispered of a ghostly train that traversed the desolate plains, its headlamp a single, unwavering eye cutting through the darkness. They said it was fueled by a fire that never dwindled, a fire that burned with an unnatural intensity, casting long, eerie shadows across the barren landscape. It was known as the Ghost Train, and those who claimed to have seen it spoke of it in hushed tones, their voices trembling with a mixture of awe and terror. They were shadowy figures, their faces obscured by the gloom, their eyes burning with an eerie, otherworldly light. Legend had it that they were lost souls, trapped between this world and the next, condemned to ride the ghost train for all eternity. Some said they were victims of tragic accidents, their lives cut short before their time. Others whispered that they were individuals who had made deals with dark forces, their souls forfeit in exchange for forbidden knowledge or power. Whatever their origins, the passengers of the ghost train were said to be restless spirits, forever searching for a way to escape their spectral prison. One night, a young woman named Ilara found herself stranded in the desolate plains. She had been traveling with a caravan when a sudden storm swept across the land, scattering their wagons and forcing them to seek shelter. As darkness fell, Ilara realized she had become separated from her companions. Lost and alone, she stumbled through the darkness, the wind whipping at her clothes, the sound of her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. Suddenly, through the howling wind, she heard a sound. The light grew brighter, and soon Ilara could make out the shape of a train, its headlamp a blinding beacon in the darkness. It was the ghost train, and it was heading straight for her. Fear surged through Ilara's veins. She had heard the stories, the whispers of the lost souls who rode the train, and she knew that to be caught by it would mean certain doom. She turned and ran, her legs pumping, her lungs burning, but the train was relentless in its pursuit. Its whistle shrieked, a piercing wail that seemed to tear at her sanity. Closer and closer it came, its engine chugging, its wheels grinding against the tracks. Ilara could hear the whispers now, the mournful cries of the lost souls as they reached out to her from their spectral prison. They promised her oblivion, an escape from her fear and loneliness. But Ilara refused to give in.